A rude customer thought she could belittle a black store manager, thinking he was just a lowly employee. But what she didn't know was that he was the creative force behind the boutique's success. What started as an act of racism turned into a moment she'd never forget. Stay tuned to witness a powerful story of quiet strength, dignity, and shocking revelation that left everyone speechless. The air in Paris was crisp that October afternoon, the kind of day where the golden leaves of the Bois de Boulogne seemed to glow against the gray stone of the city. Inside Maison Éclat, a high-end boutique on the Avenue Montaigne, the atmosphere was just as polished. Racks of silk dresses, tailored suits, and leather handbags gleamed under soft chandelier light. The store was a temple of luxury, a place where the elite came to worship fashion. And at its heart was Julien Moreau, a tall, broad-shouldered man with deep brown skin and a quiet intensity that commanded respect without effort. Julien adjusted a mannequin's scarf, his fingers deft and precise, when the glass doors swung open with a dramatic flourish. A woman stormed in, her heels clicking like gunfire on the marble floor. She was in her late 40s, blonde hair pulled tight into a chignon, her designer coat screaming wealth. Her name was Claire Dubois, a regular customer known for her sharp tongue and sharper demands. Today, though, she seemed particularly on edge. "You!" she barked, pointing at Julien without hesitation. Her voice cut through the hum of the boutique, drawing eyes from the other customers, a mix of tourists and Parisian socialites. "Why are you just standing there? I need someone to fetch me the new cashmere collection. Now!" Julien turned slowly, his expression calm but unreadable. "Good afternoon, Madame Dubois," he said, his voice smooth as velvet, tinged with a faint Haitian accent that years in France hadn't erased. "I'd be happy to assist you. Which pieces are you looking for?" Claire's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. "Oh, don't play polite with me. I know how this works. You're just the help, aren't you? Standing around, pretending to be useful. Get me someone who actually knows what they're doing, someone important." A hush fell over the store. A young sales assistant, Marie, froze mid-step, clutching a stack of boxes. An older man browsing ties glanced up, eyebrows raised. Julien didn't flinch. He'd heard worse in his 38 years, on the streets of Port-au-Prince as a kid, in the back rooms of Paris fashion houses as a young designer. Racism wasn't new to him. It was a shadow that followed him everywhere, even here, in the city of light. "Madame," he said evenly, "I can assure you I'm capable of helping you. What exactly do you need?" Claire laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Capable? Please. I don't have time for this. I've been shopping here for years, and I don't need some low-level worker wasting my afternoon. Where's the manager? I want the manager." The word low-level hung in the air like a slap. Marie stepped forward, her face pale. "Madame, I can—" "No," Claire snapped, waving her off. "I said the manager, not another one of you." Julien tilted his head slightly, studying her. Then, with a small, almost imperceptible nod, he said, "Very well. I'll get the manager for you." He turned and walked toward the back of the store, his stride deliberate, unhurried. Claire smirked, triumphant, adjusting her coat as if she'd just won a battle. But the victory was short-lived. Less than a minute later, Julien returned, not with someone else but alone. He stopped in front of Claire, hands clasped behind his back, and said, "I'm Julien Moreau, manager of Maison Éclat and creative director of the brand. How may I assist you today?" The color drained from Claire's face. Her mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. The older man by the ties chuckled softly. Marie bit her lip to hide a smile. Claire's eyes darted around, searching for an escape, but the room was a mirror reflecting her mistake back at her. You're the manager?" she stammered, her voice suddenly small. "And the designer," Julien added, his tone still polite, still professional, but with an edge that cut deeper than any insult she'd thrown. "The cashmere collection you want? I sketched it. The fabrics? I sourced them from Italy myself. So, yes, I think I can help you. Unless, of course, you'd prefer someone else." Claire's hands tightened around her purse. She could have stormed out, tail between her legs, but pride, or stubbornness, kept her rooted. "Fine," she muttered. "Show me the collection." Julien gestured toward a display near the window, leading her with the same calm dignity he'd maintained throughout. As he described the pieces, the weave of the wool, the inspiration behind the muted tones, Claire's demeanor shifted. She didn't apologize, didn't soften, but her silence spoke volumes. She bought 3 sweaters, paid without a word, and left, the door chiming behind her. The boutique settled back into its rhythm after Claire's exit, the soft murmur of voices and rustle of shopping bags filling the space. Julien returned to the mannequin, adjusting the scarf again as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. Marie approached him cautiously, her voice low. "Monsieur Moreau, are you all right? That was awful." Julien smiled faintly, a flicker of warmth breaking through his composed exterior. "I'm fine, Marie. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. People see what they want to see." She nodded, hesitant, then returned to her work. But the incident lingered. A pebble dropped in a still pond, sending ripples outward. By evening, whispers of it had spread beyond the boutique's walls. A customer had posted about it on X, a short, sharp recounting. "Racist woman humiliated at Maison Éclat today. Turns out the low-level worker she insulted was the manager and designer. Poetic justice." The post gained traction fast, likes and retweets piling up like kindling on a fire. Julien didn't see it until the next morning, when he opened his phone over coffee in his small apartment above the store. He scrolled through the thread, his jaw tightening. Some praised his restraint. Others called Claire a caricature of privilege. A few, predictably, defended her. She was just having a bad day. But the tide was against her. He set the phone down, staring out the window at the rooftops of Paris. He didn't want this. Not the attention, not the viral storm. He'd handled Claire with dignity because that's who he was, not for applause. But the world didn't care about his intentions. By noon, a journalist from Le Figaro called, asking for a comment. Julien declined politely. An hour later, a small crowd gathered outside Maison Éclat. Not customers, but onlookers, phones out, snapping photos of the storefront. Marie peeked through the curtains wide-eyed. "They're here because of yesterday, aren't they?" "Looks like it," Julien said, his voice steady but his mind racing. He'd built this place from nothing. Years of late nights, sketches on napkins, loans he'd barely paid off. Now it was a spectacle, and he wasn't sure how to feel. Then the door chimed again. It was Claire. She looked different, less polished, her hair loose, her eyes red-rimmed. The store went silent, every head turning. Julien straightened, bracing himself. "Madame Dubois," he said, neutral as ever. "Back so soon?" She didn't meet his gaze at first, her fingers twisting the strap of her bag. I saw what's happening online. I didn't mean for this to blow up. She stopped, swallowing hard. I was wrong. Yesterday, I was rude, and I shouldn't have said those things. Julien studied her. It wasn't a full apology, too vague, too guarded, but it was something. He could have pressed her, could have let the silence stretch until she cracked. Instead, he nodded. Thank you for saying that. Is there something else I can help you with? Claire blinked, thrown by his lack of anger. No, I just wanted to say it. I'll go. She turned, hesitated, then added, You're good at what you do, I mean that. And she was gone again, leaving a stunned Marie and a few gaping customers in her wake. The rest of the day was a blur. Sales spiked, reporters lingered, the ex-post hit 10,000 retweets. Julien stayed late, alone in the boutique, sketching a new design under the dim glow of a lamp. His pencil moved with purpose, channeling the chaos into something tangible. He thought about Claire, about the crowd, about the shadow of racism that never left. It wasn't over. Not for him, not for anyone. But he'd faced it, turned it, and kept going. Outside, Paris glittered, indifferent and beautiful. The story wasn't finished. Claire might return, the attention might fade or grow, and Julien's quiet strength would be tested again. For now, though, he drew, and the world watched, wondering what came next. The days after Claire's second visit blurred into a strange new normal for Maison Éclat. The boutique buzzed with curious newcomers, some drawn by the viral story, others by the designs they'd overlooked before. Julien's latest collection, the one he'd sketched that late night, flew off the racks. Muted cashmere coats with bold, unexpected lines, a quiet rebellion in fabric. Sales tripled, and the fashion blogs took notice. Vogue France called him the understated genius of Avenue Montaigne. It was success, yes, but it felt bittersweet, built on a moment he hadn't chosen. Claire didn't return, but her shadow lingered. Julien heard through Marie that she'd been spotted at a rival boutique, head down, avoiding eye contact. He didn't gloat. He'd seen her type before, people who lashed out, then retreated when the mirror turned on them. Part of him wondered if she'd learned anything, or if she'd just buried the lesson under more layers of pride. He'd never know, and that was fine. His fight wasn't with her. It was with the world she represented, a world that judged him before he spoke. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Parisian skyline, a new visitor arrived. The door chimed just before closing, and in walked a man in his 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, his suit impeccable. He carried a leather portfolio, the kind that screamed old money. Julien recognized him instantly. Etienne Laurent, a legendary investor in the fashion world, a kingmaker who'd launched brands into empires. Monsieur Moreau, Etienne said, his voice gravelly but warm. I've been watching your work for a while, but this week, I saw something more. May I sit? Julien gestured to a velvet chair near the counter, intrigued but wary. Of course. What brings you here? Etienne sat, crossing his legs. That little scene with Madame Dubois. It's everywhere. X, the papers, the cafes. People are talking about your clothes, yes, but also about you, how you handled it. Grace under fire, they're calling it. Julien leaned against the counter, arms crossed. I didn't do it for the talk. I know, Etienne said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. That's why I'm here. I want to invest in Maison Éclat. Take it global. New York, Tokyo, Milan. You've got the talent, and now you've got the story. The world's ready for you. The offer hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Julien's mind raced. Global expansion meant resources, reach, a chance to shape the industry he'd clawed his way into. But it also meant more eyes, more Claires, more moments where his skin would be the first thing people saw. He thought of his mother back in Haiti, sewing late into the night to send him here, telling him, "Make them see you, Julien, really see you." "I'll think about it," he said finally. "I don't want this to be about one bad day. It's about the work." Etienne nodded, rising. "Fair enough. You've got a week to decide. But I'll tell you this. Days like that, they don't define you. What you do next does." He left the portfolio on the chair and walked out, the door chiming behind him. Julien stood alone in the boutique, the silence thick. He picked up the portfolio, flipping through projections and sketches of flagship stores. It was a ladder to the top, but the climb would be steep. He set it down and walked to the window, gazing at the city lights. Paris stretched before him, a tapestry of beauty and flaws, a place that had both broken and made him. The next morning, he opened the shop as usual. A young woman came in, a student maybe, her accent West African, admiring a jacket he'd designed. "I read about you," she said shyly. "It made me feel seen." Julien smiled, handing her the jacket to try on. "Good," he said. "That's why I'm here." The story didn't end there. Etienne's offer loomed, a crossroads Julien hadn't yet crossed. Claire might resurface, humbled or hardened. The world would keep turning, with its shadows and its light. But for now, Julien kept creating, his dignity a quiet thunder, his work a testament to what could rise from the ashes of judgment. And somewhere, someone else watched, wondering if they'd dare to step into his shoes or challenge him again.